And this is an issue I haven't touched on at all in all of the, almost 250 videos I've done so far. I never have. But I've talked about it and discussed it with other people, people in my family, friends, relatives, neighbors. I have talked about this in past occasions, just not in video form. But it is something that I've even scratched my head like, what is the point? So this is in regards to child care costs. It's a CBC article. CBC News Business. Child care costs rising rapidly in Canada's biggest cities, study finds. So growing cost of child care is outpacing inflation, according to Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Average Canadian child care costs are climbing 3 times faster than inflation, up 8% since 2014, and that could mean an extra $1,000 a year for parents in cities where daycare is most expensive, a new report finds. This is really putting the squeeze on parents, said David McDonald, a co-author of the report and senior economist at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. It's right, but information is what matters, right? The study by the CCPA, an organization that calls itself a progressive voice whose work is rooted in the values of social justice and environmental sustainability, tracks the median price of child care across 28 Canadian cities for 3 age groups: infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. The median or middle value was used because McDonald says it isn't as affected by extreme outliers as the averages would be. So predominantly because of the way this is being reported, so that's the actual news part of it. And really, that's where it ends. That is the end of the news, folks. Everything after this is going to be predominantly to tell you how to think about that information. That's the trick of modern propaganda put forth by the establishment media, is they'll give you the news, but then they want to tell you how to think and interpret the news afterwards. If they would just give you the news and allow you the capacity, the ability to discern, disseminate, and come to and form an own conclusion yourselves with your own critical mind, that'd be fine, right? But that's not how things done. And this would probably be the way they're putting this forth is, so now I guess the premise would be, well, we need to help people, right? But in reality, let me continue on a little further, and then I'll give you my take, my opinion, my narrative, my counter narrative to the dominant narrative that they're going to try to put forth. Big cities are where child care costs bite the deepest. So, where everybody's having to move for jobs, right? Toronto, Vancouver, blah, 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 right? Toronto ranks as the most expensive for all groups, from a median of $16.49 a month for infants to $13.75 a month for toddlers and $11.50 a month for preschoolers. Here's some simple math that has a very big message. Take a family in Toronto that has an infant and a toddler in regulated care. That amounts to $3,000 a month, which over the course, government approved, right? Not your private or your parents or your grandpa or your neighbor or someone that's willing to do it for a few bucks under the table or a private setting, right? But you're looking at, it amounts to $3,000 a month, which over the course of the year is going to be $36,000. So I'm not going to get into the rest of this article. Like I said, this is all going to be about breaking down numbers and telling you that, well, we need government to help, right? In reality, if you happen to spend $36,000 a year or anywhere even close to that point by having 2 people in the household working and pawning your children off to complete strangers all day long, right? And we all know, people are people. They're ideologically driven. People are not just, robots. People have things that they form and concepts in their mind, and they're going to try to push that onto your children. And if you are putting your children in the care of these people for so much or the majority of time of their lives, that's the dominant influence that your children are going to take away. Your influence as a parent is going to be why you're going to have so many troubles with your children, because you're not going to be the dominant influence or voice in your child's life. And if you're going to spend that much money to have someone else put forth the dominant narrative and dictate the kind of thinking and the kind of person your child grows into, first of all, that's the stupidest fucking thing to do. And even economically, we're seeing doesn't even make sense economically. If it's $36,000 or even $30,000 a year, stay the fuck home. Predominantly women, of course, mothers, right? Should be. And you can try to make that sexist as much as you want, but no, women are the ones that have the, the milk. They were the ones that gave birth. They are the nurturers. Deny that all you want, but if you're trying to turn men into the new age nurturers, I mean, yeah, a lot of men are trying to assume and take on that responsibility and that task, and a lot of them are actually kicking a lot of women's ass at doing it. But let's just be realistic here, people. Nature, not politics, not oppression, not men didn't force that on anybody. Nature makes that a reality, okay? So trying to deny nature, it's one thing to get into political fucking endeavors and bullshit arguments, but trying to rely or deny nature, in this particular instance, as we're seeing, has it worked out for anyone? It doesn't seem to be for anybody as far as I'm concerned. Rampant devastation of the family unit, divorces, single mothers, the welfare state, corporate cronyism. I mean, just, feeding the parasitical class like lawyers and judges and people that make their livings off of the devastating aspects of the destruction of the family and divorce and child custody arrangements, agreements, or fights. Who's winning? Obviously, we got to get back to making the family the focus. If you make the family and your immediate community the focus, you instinctively and inherently destroy the state of narrative, the government narrative, the central planning narrative. Whether you want to or whether that's your position or what you're trying to do, instinctively that's what you do. The stronger you create the family and the community, the weaker you make the state, the control freaks, the sociopath. And even economically, as we're seeing time and time again, even that makes sense. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.